You're listening to the Healing from CPTSD podcast. My name is Justin Vanderwind, and I am your host. In today's episode, I'd just like to take some time to acknowledge what you've been through in your life as it relates to narcissistic abuse or any other intense trauma, as well as what you continue to have to struggle with. If you haven't done so already, be sure to visit our website at healingfromcptsd.com and sign up on our email list for regular updates, as well as a free weekly newsletter. If you are looking to take your life back from the devastating effects of CPTSD and narcissistic abuse, the Healing from CPTSD course is now available. This course is one of the simplest yet most effective means to heal from CPTSD and get your life back. One-on-one coaching sessions are now available, as well as a membership program for an inner circle of people who want support in their healing and growth journey if you're interested. All links will be in the description below. All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Healing from CPTSD. My name is Justin Vanderwind, and I am your host. So, in today's episode, I really just wanted to kind of talk about what you have been through and how insane and painful it all has been. And, really just acknowledge, just take some time to acknowledge what you've been through. Because I don't know about you, but in my own life, I didn't really get any, let me think here. I don't think I ever got any acknowledgement for just the absolute hell that I had to go through and, on any level. Like, to the point where, for me, my experience of human beings, people, is that they're just unbelievably volatile and really cruel. You know what I mean? Just, sources of pain and chaos, You know what I mean? So I thought it would be nice just to, instead of trying to unpack, what the narcissist is or trying to figure them out or understand them, I just like to take a little time to turn it around and focus on you. And what you've been through. And, first and foremost, just to say how unbelievably sorry I am. And to kind of give you like an invisible hug, like over these sound waves here in the podcast. But honestly, just to like let it just be here in this moment, like hold the space with you for what you've been through and what many of you probably have to continue to deal with. It's just been absolutely insane and absolutely horrible, to the point where I really believe the more I look into trauma and psychological and emotional trauma, and even things like, dissociation and stuff like that, what the brain is sort of equipped to do, to sort of protect you from really traumatic situations or having to deal with traumatic situations that you can't escape. There's things that the brain just, it's like it can't even process everything that's gone on, right? So that you've been through something horrible, but it's difficult to really, look at and to be conscious of just exactly everything that you've had to endure and deal with coming from a narcissist or any other, really traumatic situation that you've been in. By the way, CPTSD can come from, other things besides just narcissistic abuse. That's just one of the common sources that a lot of us get it from. But, you could be dealing with a psychopath or a sociopath or some other kind of, horrible situation or person or people, and I don't know. I don't know if anyone else would know what to say as far as what you've had to go through and what you have to continue to deal with, and just the complexity that many of us have to deal with just every day, just trying to function. And the cruelty, this is quite a cruel world, you know what I mean? Like, and some of us, we all know that to some degree, but some of us really have experienced it in a way it's just much deeper and, than what a lot of other people have to experience. Because if you're someone who's not, going along with the quote program, the way your life is supposed to be, quote unquote, be, or what you're supposed to be doing, quote unquote, if you're not like at a certain place at a certain age or something, it's just nothing but judgment from people, right? Nobody really cares. Like if you're, even if you're like a homeless person or something else, I mean, there's some people that do care, but there's so many that just, they don't care. They don't, if you're not sort of like where they think you should be, or they don't, approve of where you are, what you're doing. They just cast, judgment and disapproval, and they don't care. And it's like just one thing after the other for people like us who've just been so unbelievably damaged. It's just a horrible life experience. It's like just day to day you have to deal with all kinds of people and stuff that they don't understand. And, it's exhausting. It's exhausting dealing with the narcissist, but it's exhausting having to deal with CPTSD and all the issues that comes along with that. I mean, that's the only thing I can know how to do is to make a podcast like this, or to just speak out, or acknowledge your pain and your struggles, and to try to bring some form of relief, with the podcast and the course and all this stuff. It's just sort of, I could give you a hug, but sometimes we need more than that, right? So that's what all this is about, because I know it's almost like being on fire or something. It's like being going through incredible levels of psychological and emotional torture. Really, it is torture. The brain, like if you're tortured, your brain, it's like it kind of like snap, right? Like break to where you can't. It's like more pain than you can possibly process, so the brain sort of dissociates. And that's what a lot of us have had to deal with, the dissociation of it. And, from the fact that narcissistic abuse really is like, and I think that's probably why a lot of people, like, they just don't believe it, or they can't believe it, or they don't want to believe that someone could go through something like that. Because when you really look at what it is, it's like extreme psychological torture, right? Like the no-win scenarios, the constant conflicts and chaos and not being able to, not knowing what's going to trigger the narcissist to go off, having no set pattern of what's going to, get one result for you and what's going to get another result, or what you can do or change to stop feeling the pain. You can't win no matter what you do. It's a no, so when you're in a no-win situation, when you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, it's like it's a certain degree of torture, and if you have to be in it for a long time, it's just it's beyond what most people can even imagine, as we've said many times. But I think you should spend some time, and maybe you do this or maybe you have, but just to kind of like, if you can, stop. This is one of the reasons why they say you should get away from your narcissist, because one of the things is you're always caught up with what they're doing or not doing, or thinking about them or trying to figure them out. Meanwhile, that's the whole game of the narcissist, right? To get your focus on them. But you need to focus on you, right? You need some time to just like process what you've been through, what you continue to have to go through, and really just start wondering, like, hey, what about me? Like, I know many of us probably have felt, they talk about like the invisible child, but I think that if you've gone through narcissistic abuse, you have been sort of invisible to a certain degree, one way or another, right? Like you're being who you are, your emotional self. They don't really see you. The narcissist, I'm sure you may have heard that somewhere before, but they don't really see you. It's just like constant projection of themselves onto you and onto everything, really. So you're kind of invisible, and you're just sort of like under attack from an invisible, insane person on a regular basis. So you're invisible in the fact that they don't see your pain and they don't care, right? And they don't care forget about your pain. They don't care about your emotional needs or what you're interested in or what brings you joy. It's all about them, right? So take some time for you, like, just go get some coffee or sit down and watch a movie or journal, or just do what you need to do for you. Take some time for yourself. Whether you do something more in depth for healing from CPTSD or not, like taking a course or something like that, you can still work on yourself and heal and acknowledge yourself, and just kind of like acknowledge your own pain, right? Like acknowledge what you've been through. And frankly, I found, I've mentioned this before, but really just writing things down, like writing your thoughts down and your emotions, especially if you've been through something like narcissistic abuse, it helps the brain to process, what you've been through on an emotional level, on a conscious level, and also on an emotional level. And it's extremely powerful, especially if you're someone who doesn't want to open up to another person or something. The pen and the paper is really going to be your best friend. Actually, that's a big part of what the course is. It's in the course. So just writing down your thoughts and your feelings, memories, it allows the stuff, because it's kind of like all that stuff's still in your brain, right? So you got to have like an outlet to let it out. And the pad and the paper is the other nice thing, is the safest place. Like, there's not going to be any judgment, right? You go to a therapist, you may or may not have problems with them. They may be a safe person, they may not. But the pad and the pen, it's to me, that's like my secret weapon, really. Like, that's my go-to for whether I'm looking to process some emotions or try to figure something out or get a clearer view on something. Honestly, I've never had anyone give me better advice than I could get from processing my own thoughts and feelings out on paper. So that's a big core of healing from CPTSD for sure. Or just write whatever you want, like write your feelings, but allow yourself to be seen and heard. You may not, be seeing and hearing yourself, right? Like acknowledging yourself, your feelings, what you've been through. You may be completely numb, but whatever it is, just acknowledge it. That's why I kind of wanted to just, take some time here to just like take a deep breath and, just relax and just, kind of focus. One of the biggest problems with trauma and being in traumatic events is that a lot of us it's kind of like, because certain memories are really painful and traumatic, we don't want to visit them, right? But they're still in there. They're like still bobbing around back in our neural pathways, and they're going to keep, so we try to distract ourselves, or we don't want to maybe spend time alone because we don't want to have to look at any of those painful memories. But if we don't process them, and honestly, the paper and the pen is the best way to actually do that. It's the pain is still going to be in there, right? Like, you can try to deny the memories, but it's still going to be in there, and it's still going to kind of cause problems for you in different ways. And you won't really feel good, right? Like, you'll feel like something's off inside of you, and that's the reason, is because, there's sort of unprocessed trauma that's still sort of like lodged in your brain. You just got to get it out. That's all that it is. So, if you allow yourself to do that, process trauma and traumatic memories, it might be a little painful at first, but it'll feel much better afterwards. And then, of course, the other thing I like about writing stuff on paper is, like, you can get all this stuff out on paper, then you can either like ball it up and throw it in the garbage, or even like, burn it in a way that's safe. Like, if you start burning paper, be careful where you're doing it, or don't just make sure you're in a safe spot, right? But it's helpful, it's kind of healing to do that, right? Like, it's sort of a little process for sort of dissolving your emotions and your pain, and really letting the past go. Is if you can get it all on paper, and in some way, shape, or form get rid of that paper, destroy it, so you get like a psychological and emotional feeling like you have moved on from what you're dealing with. And, try to be around people who really get you, who really get what you've been through, because they can really hear you and see you and say, hey, I'm so sorry for what you've been through, and what, the pain that you've had to endure, and the insanity of it all. And just the absolute, I don't know what you guys have done in your lives, like what you've had to go through, but I can tell you my life has been, like, the narcissistic abuse is just one piece of that puzzle, but it's been nuts. Like, it's been crazy. Like, I feel like I've been in some crazy movie, like, I don't know, it's just like, from the narcissistic abuse itself, to the CPTSD, to dealing with people, to trying to figure out what's wrong and heal from it, and trying to find someone who's not gonna be nasty or reject me or something, or you know what I mean? Because I'm not God, I just needed some help and some love. Like, why is that so hard to find in this world? It's so weird. So, man, it really helps to be understood, to be seen and heard. And you know what else? Like, as far as like acknowledging yourself and really your emotional needs, that's what I'm trying to convey to you too, is like, really check in with yourself, because a lot of us have this tendency to, a large part of CPTSD is the self-abandonment, right? Where we're just sort of like not thinking about ourselves at all. And it is kind of weird when you start getting into like spirituality and stuff, because there is a lot of talk about being selfless and just seeking to give. And that's true. That's all good stuff. But some of us take it to an extreme where we don't focus on our needs at all, right? Like, if we're talking about like basic physical needs, food, water, we do need to take care of ourselves a little bit. The truth is that applies to your emotional self too. Like, just how are you really feeling? Even if someone else isn't asking you that, ask yourself that, right? Like, what are you feeling? What are you really feeling right in this moment? Like, is there something you feel like you need or that would make you feel better? Or is there something in your life that's really causing you a great deal of strain and stress like for example, like, maybe you might be in a situation that you really can't stand, but you just keep doing it for some reason or another, like being at a job you really don't like. It's just sort of eating you up inside. I mean, it could be that, it could be something else, but just allow yourself to just be real with yourself, be honest with your feelings about whatever situation you're going through, and see what would you like to have change, right? Like, is there something you'd like to be doing instead, or, somewhere you'd like to go, or something you'd like to do? Just inquire within yourself, and just, it's because it's kind of like self-care, right? Like, you're just caring about yourself. It's like, oh, wow. Because those of us who've been through narcissistic abuse or sociopaths or whatever, that never happened. Like, we never got that. And some people might think that's mind-blowing. And frankly, it is mind-blowing. Like, we never got, like, just to be seen and heard and sort of appreciated. You know how you've seen, like, healthy parents doing that for their kids? I remember growing up and seeing other kids getting that from their parents and family and grandparents. I'm like, wow, their family really seems to like their kids a lot here. Like, everybody's making a big deal about them. And I always felt like I was just kind of like a problem, or like I felt like I was in prison, like, and my parents were just like prison guards. Like, they just treated me like crap. I don't know if any of you have ever been in jail or whatever, or just from watching movies of people in jail, like the guards, they're mean. Like, they don't care about you, right? And so and then there's also this sort of underlying idea that, like, you don't deserve to be seen and heard. You don't deserve to be acknowledged. Like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you really feel, right? And we've had to sort of bury and dissociate and play all these psychological and emotional games when dealing with these people, because really, for self-protection, to protect our core self. But, there comes a point where we've got to get back in touch with our core self so we don't lose it and we don't, get kind of lost, right? So really inquiring within yourself on a regular basis about, what you're feeling, what you'd like to do, writing stuff down. This is very helpful. It's very simple, but it's very helpful. And you'll notice that it'll make you feel better a little. You'll be like, wow, I'm getting something that I have been not getting. And sometimes your spouses are like that too. They're nasty, they're mean, or they don't care about you. I feel bad for ladies because I see a lot of this go on with them. Like, they want to be cared for, but the men don't. Not all men, but I see it a lot, right? Like, the men they're not emotionally connected, right? And so they don't. I might be wrong, but I really believe that women are looking to have some, like, emotional connection, just some, like, emotional connection. And a lot of men don't know how to do that. They're just, like, shut off. So the women go, what are they supposed to do? It's really sad. I feel so bad for them, because these guys just want to watch sports or whatever, or get drunk or talk about BS. And that's, you can do that a little bit, but there's got to come a time where we can be real. And some guys know how to do that, but I don't know. I see that a lot with women, and I feel kind of bad, because the more I got in tune with my own emotional stuff, the more I realized, oh, this is probably what a lot of women are like talking about, like complaining about, right? Like, about men. Like, one of the biggest issues is they just want to be seen and heard and acknowledged and sort of like held in the present, and instead of being like ignored, or, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I could be off or not or something, but I don't know. I'm not a woman, so I don't know, but it seems like that. So you can do that for yourself, whether you're a woman or a man. You can get your emotional needs met. And if you're in a relationship where they're not respecting you on an emotional level, you can have a conversation with them, or, because honestly, you need to start treating yourself like you deserve the best, right? Like, first class. There's no reason you don't deserve first class treatment on an airplane, in life, right? People need to treat you with respect. And a lot of us have been just so fundamentally beaten down, that we really fundamentally feel like we're not worth, like, taking a moment just to acknowledge our existence, right? Like, that you matter, that you count, right? Like, your feelings are real and valid. And because, growing up with these people, you have been brushed aside in a abused and also neglected, sort of like emotionally, right? The emotional abuse is really, as we know, the core of all this, but also neglect, right? So, start practicing like looking within, just turning your, not like a yogi. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but just take a moment, like just take a breath and just settle down. You don't even have to like meditate or anything. Just look, like just ask yourself, like, how am I feeling? How am I doing? Like, do I like where I am right now? Do I like the relationships I'm in? Do I, again, do I want something to change? And just give yourself the permission, like start caring for you, right? Like even if you have kids or other obligations, you can still include yourself in the care, right? Like in your own care and taking time for yourself and making sure that you're being seen and heard. It's very important. And I found that it was one of the most healing things for me is when I looked at like how I really felt. Like, I had some sort of acknowledgement or understanding or, instead of, and it's really because I've had so many people that have tried to like change me or fix me or change the, and it's like, that's not really what I need. And I think a lot of you don't really, what we need, it's not that we don't need to work on ourselves or there might be some things we might need to change or grow or whatever, but what people like us need more than anything, more than any of that, more than trying to fix or change or become something, whatever we're supposed to be, quote unquote, we just need to be held and acknowledged right here and right now for exactly who and what we are and what we've been through. Not, you know what I mean? Because we've been through so much unbelievable rejection on so many different levels that even going to like, some group or some place where people like, they're just trying to change and fix and control. It's like, maybe we just need to, there's a place for that stuff, but maybe sometimes you just need to be okay with what is, right? Like with what's inside you, just, relax, like take a load off, right? And, do something nice for yourself. Go see a movie or, get yourself an ice cream cone or just do something nice. Make your life about you in a healthy way. There is healthy selfishness, by the way. Like narcissists take it to one extreme where it's like selfishness to a toxic point. But there's a healthy balance, right? That's why I like breathing so much. Like just like the breath, it applies to so much as a philosophy, like, but it's also real. Like we all have to breathe, but you've got to breathe in and breathe out, right? There's a give and take. If you try to just breathe in 100%, it's not going to work out. You're going to get lightheaded and pass out. And if you just try to exhale or give without taking a breath for yourself, that's not going to work out either. You know what I mean? So you can just kind of apply that to your life, right? You got to give and you got to take and just find a balance that works for you. But, man, God, we've had to live lives of such like, not just pain, but having to hide who we are. You know what I mean? Or try to walk on eggshells or try to just exist in this bizarre world of where people aren't, because it's, there's the narcissist, but then there's all these other people who aren't. That's where the word dysfunction really comes into play, because people aren't being honest, in those situations with how they really feel. If they were, they would have to be like, maybe I need to make some changes here. Like, maybe I should stop taking this crap from this person over here and trying to pretend like it's not happening. You know what I mean? Like when it's pretty clear, like there's something seriously wrong here. Because we've just gotten we've had to deal with so much sort of dissociation, but denial from so many different people, right? And those of us who are sort of like interested in healing and growing and trying to find out what was going on and work on it, we were the ones who weren't in denial. That's why we're the scapegoats or the black sheep or whatever, because we weren't. It's very weird. It's very unnatural to be in denial to that extreme, those extreme levels, right? Like where people are constantly being sort of abused, just constantly, whether it's emotional or psychological or whatever, anything else, just constant. And everyone, so many people in those situations were like, oh, this is fine. Like, if you don't like what's happening here, there must be something wrong with you. And it's like, no, there's something wrong with you. Like it's clear as day. And you can also, and that's another thing they try to do is they try to get you to stop trusting your instincts. And when you grow up in a place like that, you can lose yourself, right? Like you can lose your connection to your core self. And maybe those people have too. I don't know. But all you got to do is, that's why the chaos has to keep going. Because if you stop the chaos and just looked at what's actually happening, and more importantly, just felt with your heart, like, how do I feel here? I feel bad. I don't like what's happening here. I don't know exactly what's going on here, like talking about dealing with narcissists or something like when you're growing up with like that as a kid, or if you don't know what narcissists are, the truth is your instincts, your inner self, your feelings, they'll tell you something is seriously wrong here. You know what I mean? Like, and the narcissist wants you to stop trusting your instincts because they want you to be just sort of part of their world of chaos and mayhem and pain. And dissociating is the way that some people choose to deal with those situations. I wasn't like that. And I'm sure if you're listening to a podcast like this, you weren't either. I mean, like you want to feel better. Nobody's happy in those situations. So learning to trust your core self and to live from your core self, right? Like, I always felt so like cut off or something, like invisible, but also like just like I was buried somewhere in the back of some closet emotionally or something. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't seen, I wasn't heard. I was just sort of like, I don't know. It was like it just felt like I was so disconnected. Like my brain and my inner emotional self, core self, or whatever, were so disconnected for a while. But my whole life was seeking to reconnect, like I didn't know how to fix it, but I was trying, and eventually it worked. I found out how to do it. And a big part of that was it was there the whole time. I was doing it, right? I was listening to, even though I wasn't doing the best, I was all messed up from dealing with such a dysfunctional environment, but I was listening to my inner self was hurt and in pain. And I was like, oh, like, think about that. Think about how many people are walking around in this world where their inner self, and you can call it whatever you want, but just their inner self is just kind of like in pain. It hurt. They're feeling unseen. They're feeling unheard. Maybe they're in sort of a constant pain. The truth is, there's a lot of us, we feel like that's how we need to live, right? Just ignore yourself. Deny yourself, deny your feelings, just try to be tough and move through it. But, you don't feel good, and it's not healthy. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anybody. And there's no need for it. We don't have to live like that. That's what this episode is about. Like, you don't have to keep walking around on not only eggshells, but just like not focused on who you are and what's in your heart, right? Like what you want to be doing with your life and in your life and who you want to be around and stuff. You can to me, honestly, that's the quickest way to reorient yourself and heal, is to get back in tune with, reconnect your mind and your sort of core emotional self, because then you'll be like, okay, like I know what I need. I know how to get these needs met, and I'm not going to take any crap. Like, you just won't accept any more abusive stuff, right? Like from anybody. It's just, it's just not, it's like physical abuse. Like, would you tolerate somebody hitting you? No, it's not going to happen, Jack. So the same thing with emotional abuse and psychological mind games. It's all toxic. It's all abuse. It's all not okay. And, you have the right to say, hey, this makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like this, whatever it is. It could be something at work, at home, wherever. You can acknowledge yourself, acknowledge your feelings, acknowledge your needs. And work and strive to get them met. Very few people know what you've had to go through in your life. And I'm saying these things because they probably, as hard as this is, a lot of people probably wouldn't even know how to acknowledge what you've been through. But it's been like just unbelievable hell. Most people don't understand. They don't care about you, right? Like in a real way. They just want you to be quiet and fit in or whatever it is, right? But you need to be seen and heard, right? And so you got to start with yourself. This is just, I'm saying these things just to kind of get you like to rally for your own self, just to kind of love yourself and acknowledge yourself and be true to yourself. How many times have we heard that, right? Like all throughout history, the great, authors and artists and movies and books and everywhere, like that always comes back up, right? Like, be true to yourself. That's like the key. That's the key to everything. Be true to yourself and discover yourself and take the time to do it, right? And forget about other people. What I mean when I'm not saying you shouldn't be giving or whatever, I'm just saying like all these people that think you need to be doing this or that, or they have no idea what you've been through, what you're struggling with. Give yourself permission to just, take a day off or, make yourself a priority, because you haven't been prioritized for much of your life. Maybe that's still happening with someone in your life. Make yourself a priority and love yourself, and you'll be amazed how much better you feel, and then it's like, wow, being happy is much better than being surrounded by misery and chaos, right? make it about you rather than the narcissist, right? That's how you flip it. That's how you start to be like, if you're dealing with codependency, that's the solution, is to flip. It's like at that episode of Seinfeld. If every natural instinct you've ever had was wrong, the opposite would have to be right. Right? That's one of my favorite episodes, but it's true. There's some truth there. Like if you have a trouble with sort of like neglecting yourself, just do the opposite, where you're focusing on yourself a little bit. It feels weird. It's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be focusing on myself, but that's what you need, right? If you have trouble in that area. So I'm giving you all big hugs, and if you need to, like these people that say you need to get out of the house, maybe you don't need to get out of the house. Maybe you need to be in the house. Maybe your natural instincts are exactly what you need, right? Like what you're feeling at the time. Maybe it's what you need in this moment. So, most people don't have any idea. They're not going to be able to give you any real good advice anyway, right? So, I just wanted to take some time today and just acknowledge what you've been through and tell you how sorry I am, and how I know it's absolutely insane. And it's a world, we've been in a world that a lot of people don't even know exists, and there's not much help for us. So, oh, by the way, so I have this course up, but I also just started, coaching is up. Like if you're interested in doing like one-on-one, just talking, or we can do, I have it set up so it could be like kind of like coaching, like if you need some help strategizing for things in your life, like, it's interesting. I'm a person who's really good at sort of like organization and planning and putting things together and getting things done. And I realized, I guess I just thought that was like normal for people, but I realized there's people that have trouble with like just functioning in that way. So that's what I mean with coaching. Like if you need some help in there, in that area, or honestly, if you just need to have someone to acknowledge like what you've been through, just to talk, we can do that. And I also have assertiveness and effective communication practice, which it's extremely helpful. Really, it's like healing the trauma and then empowering yourself through assertiveness and effective communication is really the key to realigning yourself with your core self and empowering yourself. Like it's almost like you practicing some self-defense, right? Like you may not actually ever be in a real fight, but once you know how, you learn how to exercise some of that stuff, like throw a proper punch and kick and stuff, it naturally empowers you. You feel much better, more confident. And if you did have to defend yourself in some situation, you could, right? The same thing with assertiveness and effective communication. When we learn how to be assertive and actually do it in a safe way, I don't know why there's not more stuff like this available for people, because it's like everything people need, like we're all doing all this other stuff. It's not what most of us need. It's so weird, right? Like in school, you learn a bunch of stuff. Like it's like you don't learn stuff that you do need in the real world, and then you're learning all this other stuff that, you don't really need, right? So why are we doing that? Right? So anyway, assertiveness and effective communication is a big part of that. I wish they had that in like school, honestly, like just learning how to, because that's how you learn how to notice yourself, get your needs met, and how to stand up for yourself. So not in a physical fight way, but in a way where if someone's like being abusive or mowing you down, like verbally, you can stand up and say, there's healthy ways to do this. So it's really helpful to do that. I've honestly found that between the writing my feelings and thoughts down, practicing assertiveness and effective communication, and just sort of practicing self-love, that was really the key ingredients to healing from CPTSD. And so I thought, hey, maybe we can just practice it, one-on-one. So that's part of the coaching. There's also a membership program where it's kind of like a private Facebook group, right? It's the inner circle. And what it is it's designed not just for people who get one another, right? But people who are specifically really kind of committed to healing and growing with like safe support, right? So if you join that membership, right, you get like discounts on everything that's in this school right now, the healing from CPTSD school, so to speak. But you can also practice with anyone in the group if they're willing, right, to do like what they call co-counseling, where you're just sort of talking and the other person is just holding the space and actively listening, which is kind of what we're talking about here, like just acknowledgments, being seen and heard. Someone can do that you could do it for each other, right? Like over Zoom or something like that. You could do it with me in a coaching session, and you can also practice the assertiveness and effective communication skills with one another. or you don't have to do that if you want to be part of the group. We'll have sort of like weekly Zoom calls if you're comfortable with that. By the way, if you're not comfortable with any, you don't have to talk to anyone. Don't worry about that. But if you're interested in doing it with people who get you in a safe place, I created a space to do that. Zoom has a really interesting setup where you can get on a sort of a call with a bunch of people at once. And I kind of set up something where, if you're a part of the group, we'll have like weekly meetups, kind of like a 12-step group where really all it is you just get on, and if you feel comfortable speaking about whatever is bothering you in your life at that time, or just you want to be seen and heard, you can do that in a place where there's not going to be any judgment or crosstalk or ridicule or anything like that. And honestly, being vulnerable in that type of environment is extremely helpful for people like us to melt toxic shame, to help us connect with ourselves more. So it's a group that's really designed for more in-depth and continued support, whether you've gone through the course or not. So all that's available. It'll all be in the links below if you're interested. And you can I have it set up so you can like make appointments if you want to do like some one-on-one type stuff. We can do that. So yeah, make it about you. This year is about you. It should be all about you. Take a page out of the narcissist book. It's going to be all about us, but we'll do it in a way that's not abusive and toxic to other people or ourselves, frankly. So that's the latest news, and I hope you guys are doing well. I really enjoy getting feedback. Some people send me messages or emails, or they find me on Facebook, and I just want you to know it's really always nice to hear from people who get it, right? Like who understand, who feel seen and heard, and I really enjoy hearing from you. So if you ever want to reach out, I've got like an open door policy. Whatever you want to do, you can. I'm on Facebook like a regular person, so you can just message me, or you can email me, and I'm here. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.